I want to welcome everybody to our very first episode of our Lush Lawn Pro podcast, your go-to resource for expert insights, career guidance, and real-world advice for professionals in the lawn care industry. My name is Aaron Samson. I'm the CEO and founder of Lush Lawn, and this is Ken Gesso, the COO of Lush Lawn. And I'm happy to be joined by Ken over here. In this episode, we're going to be pulling back the curtain to share the story behind Lush Lawn, what inspired this podcast, and how we hope it will serve you, the hardworking professionals who make the industry thrive.
That's awesome. I'm excited to get into it. Got a lot of questions for you today, Aaron. So audience is going to learn a lot about you today. So let's get to it. So Aaron, what impact do you hope this podcast has on the professionals in the industry here?
In answering your question, I've had a lot of experience over the last 20 plus years in lawn care. Made a lot of mistakes, seized a lot of opportunities, created a very nice life for myself as well. Really want to share this with the audience. I have no problem sharing my story, and then hopefully you can learn from some of my mistakes and some of the things I've done right as well. And that's really the purpose of this podcast, really to help others out in the industry, to build some industry credibility myself. So those are the reasons for the podcast.
Awesome, great. Yeah, looking forward to it. I thought it's a great point too. Opening up about yourself. I'm glad you're willing to do that. I thought we'd kind of dive right into that. So, what inspired you to get into the lawn care industry?
Yeah, so a long time ago, this was in the last century. So to kind of age myself a little bit, I was going to school for accounting, and I was in business at the same time. I was in the landscaping business, and that's what I did. I had a choice between accounting and being in business, and accounting was more boring. So business was very exciting, and so I chose the business path. So my junior year in college, I dropped out, and I went straight into business. I did that that particular business I did for 7 years. It was called Standard Lawn. And then I sold that business, and that's when 21 years ago I started Lush Lawn.
All right.
Yeah.
Standard Lawn, were you doing the same kind of concept of Lush Lawn with fertilizing weed control, or was it more mowing? What were you doing with Standard Lawn?
The first 2 to 3 years of Standard Lawn was mowing and landscaping primarily. Okay. I think it was the third year into Standard Lawn that I also did lawn care, so I started doing fertilizing, weed control, stuff like that. I also did some sales for another company over the winters, so that's kind of how I got introduced into the lawn care business. But gradually I phased out cutting and landscaping and just strictly was going into lawn care.
Okay. Would you mind speaking to the decision? Why do that? Why go to fertilizing and weed control?
It was a little bit of a better fit for me at the time. I was able to really focus on that. Frankly, my own skill set at the time was much more geared up for sales and marketing, and that tied in much better to lawn care than it did for landscaping and lawn cutting. And I was still going to school, still going to college at the time, so I only had a limited amount of time to use, and so I just chose to focus on lawn care.
Awesome, very good. You speak to that too with the sales background that obviously leads and tends to help out with entrepreneurship. Could you speak to any early mentors maybe, or things that shaped your decision to want to go into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I guess this could even go back to my childhood. So most people's childhoods, they really look up to maybe sports figures and people like that. And I certainly had some sports figures I looked up to. But my idol when growing up was Alexander the Great when I was a kid. So at 10 years old, I just loved the way he conquered the world and his initiative and things like that. He did it all in I think 13 years, and so that was amazing. And so I just really embraced the kind of energy that he had, and I sort of channeled that kind of energy as well, not to the extent of Alexander the Great, but I channeled it to a much lesser extent into business. And as I kept growing up, as I got into my late teens and early 20s, I really kind of shifted, I guess my heroes, I guess you could say, into people that were in business. So people like Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, those kinds of people. I read a lot of their autobiographies, a lot of things that they did, and that's why I called Standard Lawn Standard Lawn. It was named after Standard Oil, so that's why I called it why I called it. So I will say I struggled embracing heroes who, this sounds weird, this sounds very weird, struggled embracing heroes that were alive in case I came across these people later on in business or something. So there were people that had already passed away, historical figures in business. Those are the people I idolized. So it sounds weird, but that's the way it was. Yeah. And I learned a lot in reading those books about those different business people. They faced a lot of the same challenges that I faced, but in different ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for me it was NFL running backs, right? Barry Sanders, I idolized him growing up. Alexander the Great, though, taking another step further, maybe a little bigger impact. Yeah. Right? So very, very good, Aaron.
Yeah.
How would you, Alexander the Great conquering the world, taking over everything? Maybe this plays a little bit into this, but how would you describe your leadership approach? Yeah,
it's certainly evolved over the years. It's pretty high energy. It's pretty intense. As I was even doing this podcast, I heard the comments that my intensity's reflected upon my face. I'm paraphrasing there, but I've had to loosen up a little bit. But no, I'm pretty intense. And I think that the other people capture that energy, that intensity, and I would say I don't know how you define that as leadership exactly, but certainly leadership by example with regards to that. And I also try to develop leaders too. So in some of my learning, I'll also mention this as well. Some of my learning, I've read Drucker, for example, Peter Drucker, and he talks about leadership quite a bit. So in managing and leading, first you manage your own work, you manage your workers, then you manage your managers, then you manage the business. Those are the 4 layers of management. Ties into leadership as well. So I don't know if that really answers your question. It probably doesn't, but I kind of rambled a little bit there, but yeah.
It's helpful. I mean, I can speak to it, right?
Yeah.
I've worked directly.
So please forgive me. This is my first podcast. Maybe by my 20th podcast, I'll be a little more articulate. I'll sound a little bit better. Yeah.
No, I can back up kind of your comments on the leadership style. I've worked with you directly in my current role for I think 7 years now, somewhere in that time frame. So quite a little while. Certainly intense. But what I like about it is you know where you stand. So there's no guesswork. If you're performing at a high level, you're aware of that. And if you're performing at a low level, you're certainly made aware of that too. But there's a level of transparency with that. So don't really hold punches.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
What have been your biggest challenges with leading a team? So currently, Aaron, you have many direct reports that oversee many different areas of the business. Can you speak to some challenges? I'm sure our viewers would have some challenges as well, but what you've learned and how you overcome those?
So overall, trying to get people, to do things right without pushing them away. So I guess without creating turnover, so to speak, and in doing it in a more instructive way. So I've had some challenges with, I guess, personally, a lack of patience, I would say. I haven't been patient enough with people at times, and that's been an issue. So I would say, broadly speaking, lack of patience has been probably my biggest challenge. There's been a lot of individual circumstances throughout the years that have been very challenging. I mean, COVID was one of them. We were shut down for some period of time, and we had to work through that. And there's things like that. So there's another year, 2018, which wasn't a very profitable year. I had to work through that challenge that year. So there's been different challenges throughout the years.
Yeah, you speak to COVID. I mean, I remember working through that with you. You showed a lot of leadership during that time. It was very challenging for our industry. As there was talks, can we go outside and work? Well, even though our techs are out by themselves, not interacting with anyone, right? There were some regulations that shut us down shortly. But you got kind of involved at the local government level. I know you encouraged others to do so too. But could you speak to that a little bit? How you work through? That's a big challenge that hopefully we don't have to face again. But you never know. How do you really step in and keep a company motivated and encouraged that, hey, we're going to be all right. We'll make it through this.
Yeah, so that was a very, very challenging situation. Very challenging for everybody. It seemed like, particularly in Michigan, things were changing. Regulations were changing very frequently over a very short period of time. So you really didn't know where you stood from one day to the next. It was tough. So I was constantly on the horn with my attorney to try to interpret what the rules were, what the laws were. Talking to people at the governor's office, trying to get some guidance with different things that was going on. Of course, they were very busy too, so that was tough to get a hold of them. But then the communication with our customers, to explain to our customers what we were doing, why we were doing it, explain to our employees what we were doing and why we were doing it. There's a period of time where people had to work remotely. So I had to roll that out. That's not something we normally did, so we had to roll that out and roll it out really quickly. There were challenges with knocking on doors, talking to people, too many people being in a certain location at once. And these things kept changing daily, then weekly. Later on, they changed less frequently, and there was a little more stability. And fortunately, we got through it. But then I should also acknowledge that we were fully shut down for 5 weeks during our busiest season. So fully shut down for 5 weeks in March and April. And that was a very challenging circumstance. That's during the period of time where we make most of our sales in our industry, where we do a lot of work, where we get a jump start on our work. And we just had to really work through it. So more broadly speaking, with that as well, communication was enormously important.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember it was a very fluid situation, and you and I were speaking regularly on, hey, how do we get through this? And I really appreciated, the steadfast, not give up attitude, right? You had a very high focus on being safe, right? Making sure, hey, we were following regulations, doing everything right. But at the same time, how do we still get that great service to our customers? Yeah. Because you remember during that time, a lot of people were home. So even what we provide maybe even had a larger impact because they were enjoying those outdoor spaces. Yeah. They were home even more so than maybe they would have been at other times. So it was challenging, but kudos to you to work through that through that challenge. Yeah, so we had very strict guidelines at times. And so how do we operate within those guidelines from a perspective of safety and how also from a perspective of profitability and surviving as a company, keeping everybody employed? There was just a lot of balancing concerns, and it was very new, very, very, very new. I will say though that I talked about reading my history and stuff like that. Sometimes when you come across new challenges that you've never faced before, sometimes you have some experience in a sort of a secondhand way, if you have some historical perspective of things that may have happened in the past. So, some knowledge of the Spanish flu, for example, and some different things that had happened over the centuries. There was in ancient Athens, there was a big plague, and that was something I was pretty familiar with. There were just certain things that I was pretty familiar with that actually did help me a little bit. It sounds weird, but it's kind of in the back of my head. It's a little bit in my thought process, and so a little historical perspective was actually very helpful. Yeah, I'd like to kind of take it back to getting started off. I know you started this, understanding one-man crew, right? It's you and a truck and doing all the work. Yeah. I couldn't imagine what that is, starting off doing that. And certainly I'm sure you had the vision for, hey, this is where Lush Lawn's going. Yeah. But could you speak to those early challenges? What was that like, getting out there every day, doing it? Your sales, marketing, producing. What was that like, Aaron? Yeah, so I'm also excited to say that we're launching our franchising, okay? So that's really exciting. Yeah. So when you're a one-man crew, it's very lonely. Yeah. Very, very, very lonely. So, you're just by yourself, doing all your work. You're doing all your sales. You're doing most of the pretty much the office work.
You get a little bit of outside help here and there, but mostly it's by yourself. If you're out on the truck and it's raining and it's your equipment's breaking down, you're by yourself out there. You've got to take care of all that stuff by yourself. I will say, fortunately for the franchising system, we actually are going to have a support network, but that's a challenge. But every step that you grow as a business presents its own challenges and its own adjustments too.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. What was that next step that you think probably it was a revenue milestone, or was it the employees? What was the next biggest hurdle after you really got going?
Yeah. So I don't know if I call it a hurdle, but certainly a big adjustment. Year two, I had 3 technicians. I grew the business quite a bit between year 1 and year 2. I had 3 technicians. I had a guy that helped me out with management. He was mostly like a service manager, ran service calls, did training, did those kinds of things. And then I had one person that worked in the office and did some sales too. So I had some help year 2. So you go from managing work, as I talked about earlier, and now you're going to managing workers and leading workers. It was a pretty small team. I think there was 5 or 6 of us through most of that year 2.
Yeah.
We broke even in year 2, so that was a little bit of a change too. Because year 1 I lost money.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably something, a lot of owners, CEOs, especially that start the business, right? So you started it from the ground floor and grew it to, we're about 90 employees now.
Yeah.
Did you find it challenging as you were doing that? Because to do that, I'm sure you have to let go of some control, right? And I'm sure that's probably a big challenge a lot of our listeners probably have.
Yeah.
How do you work with that? How do you get to that point where, hey, I can let go some of this and then trust other people to kind of do some of what you need them to do?
Yeah. Well, So I'll throw this back at you for a second here. So you started out as a lawn technician working for Lush Lawn, and you progressed. You progressed to later the service manager for a brief stint, then the branch manager. Now you're the COO, managing branch managers. But when you became service manager and branch manager, you probably looked at most of your techs and said, "Hey, I could do it better than you.
Yeah.
I wish I could get out in the field and do this and stuff like that." But you have to. You really can't approach it like that. Fortunately, I was probably a worse tech than you, so I don't think I had to. I don't think I would say the same thing. I don't think I would say that. Okay, I would do this job better than you. I'd probably do it worse. So that was helpful. I could delegate with a clear conscience. I guess I could delegate with a clear conscience. So, yeah. But it is always a challenge as you move up. You think you can do the job better than your successor. But you have to kind of let go of that.
Yeah, I think you spoke to it even earlier, right? It's the patience on some of it. So while we're talking about doing that first line of defense, you're on the lawns. Now you're entrusting other people to run some pretty big decisions for you. And certainly I know there's times. I mean, I've felt it. We've all felt it, right? That's not the right thing to do. So how do you work through that? How do you let someone learn? Maybe have some failures. That's not certainly going to crumble the business. I'm sure you'd step in, right? But let them go through those kind of tough times to get through them and learn and help develop those people into stronger leaders. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so then that's the next step, right? So we talked about managing your work, managing your workers, and now we're talking about managing managers. Yeah. So you have to entrust your managers to make decisions. When they're early on in their decision-making process, they probably are going to make some mistakes. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. And sometimes they still may make the right decision, but just as circumstances turn out, things don't really work out right. So you really have to be careful about second-guessing your manager's decisions. You have to allow them to make their decisions, but ask them why. Ask them, okay, why are you doing this? And then consult with them about it too, so that you have an understanding why they're making a decision. They have an understanding why they're making a decision, and then guide them, give them advice as to maybe they should make the decision the way they're doing it or not. You're not always going to be there for all the decisions. A lot of times your manager's going to have to make on-the-spot quick decisions, and they really can't consult with you. And you just have to live with what those decisions are. But if you have more patience, your managers will develop, and they'll become good at making decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've really you've instilled a pretty hard culture of process with Lush Lawn. I'm sure that probably helps too, knowing that we at least have processes in place. They need to be executed, but at least we have a guiding compass of how things should go. And I think that helps in all levels of the business. So,
Yeah, we have a lot of processes that we put in place. We have what we call a corporate manual, and I would. You're never too young as a business to start doing a corporate manual because as you grow, you want other people to take over your tasks, your duties. You want to delegate those things. And if you have a how-to for each of those different tasks and processes, it's much easier to hand that off. It's much easier to train somebody else. So I highly encourage my listeners out there, if you haven't already, to create some sort of a corporate manual with standard operating procedures, with different policies and guidelines.
Yeah, certainly helps keep stuff streamlined. I'll say that. Then you can always evaluate them, right? So there's always an evaluation process with those too. You start off with an idea, you run it for a little bit, and then you evaluate. Is this the best way to do it?
Yeah.
You know, I'll share you have you doing it right now, right?
Yeah.
With one of our processes, and that's getting guys out in the morning and when they come back in the afternoon. Done it for a while, and it's like. Hey, have we looked at this in a little bit? Dude, should we go back and examine this? Can we get a little more efficient?
So I'll give an example of that. Yesterday in our meeting, so we have group meetings once a week with the leadership team, which is made up of all my direct reports. And we had somebody pull out a document with cobwebs on it, I think. Actually, it was called the Sales Commission Trail. And I think it was from like 2009 or something like that. So I was looking through it and I was like, well, we didn't even text back then. So like, but that just shows like how early I adopted a corporate manual as it goes back that far. And I was like, I think this needs to be updated. So this is, I think this is like 15 years old or something like that. Things have changed a little bit since 2009. So
yeah. A little different, right? Had the little dial phones back then, so you got to change it up a little bit now. Yeah, for sure. With that too, so I think a lot of things, maybe early on in business, people don't put enough emphasis on. It's because when you first talk about it, to a lot of people, maybe it sounds a little hokey, a little just feel good, right? Because I don't think they truly understand. But I kind of want to get into our core values, right, and how that truly does help make some decisions and drive the vision of the company. Could you speak to maybe some of the core values or what you kind of relate with the most out of our core values?
Yeah, I would say commitment is the. So we have 6 core values, but commitment is the one that I go back to probably the most often. Because it's so important as a business. Being a businessman myself, I know that if I tell a customer we're going to do something, that we have to do it. You really can't bill unless you fulfill what you promise to the customer.
That's great.
So
can't bill unless you fulfill.
We just came up with a new one there. That's nice. That's a new part of the pledge, I guess. So the commitment, take it very seriously. Don't make a promise unless you're ready to fulfill it. I also embrace respect a lot. I take a deep breath and pause a lot of times before communicating and just make sure that I'm communicating respectfully to people. Maybe if I disagree or whatever the case is, I have to be respectful of the other person. And I expect people to be respectful as well to me. So respect is another one that's pretty important to me. I guess they're all important, so I'll throw an innovation too. I'll throw innovation, persistent dedication to improving. We should always be looking for a better way of doing things for our employees, for our customers, for our vendors, for all the people that are part of the team. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, a lot of them help drive different decisions when we're doing stuff out there. We have quality, right? So we're making sure we're putting down good products out there, not going for the cheapest stuff out there. We want to make sure we're doing quality service for our customers, right? And so I know personally the one that really sticks with me and means a lot is perseverance. Really respect someone that can kind of push through those tough times. And for people starting off a business or a venture like that, as you spoke to franchisees, even that, with a lot of stuff in the background that's going to be there to help and support, there's still going to be those times where they feel like, man, this is tough. How do I get through it? So perseverance.
Yeah, perseverance is another one of our core values, as is quality that you spoke to. But perseverance is just dedicated, and you have to just keep going. No matter how tough it is out there, just kind of keep working through it. Certainly can ask for help. You certainly can take a pause or a break if needed. But finding a way to get through things is important with perseverance.
Awesome. Yeah. So as you've grown the company now, Aaron, is it okay to ask you a little bit? Have you be a little vulnerable for this next question? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
You haven't heard the question yet, right? Yeah, for sure. But could you kind of speak to maybe one or a few failures that you've had that you've learned from that maybe you could help others from that experience?
Yeah, I've had some failures for sure in signing contracts. There's been just a handful of times where I have signed a contract where I haven't really had legal representation look it over, or I haven't I've missed something myself, and I've gotten really burned. So that's definitely one area. I've seen it even more so, unfortunately, with employees that work together with me. And that's why if there is a contract, I want to be the one to look at it or give it to an attorney to look at, because you never know. Sometimes there's things there in the fine print that you're missing. Sometimes a contract is a lot longer than you realize, or there might be terms that are very onerous to get out of a contract. So I would say contracts is a pretty big one, because the downside of signing a bad contract is pretty heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's insightful for me actually, because we still have the policy to this day where you sign all of our contracts, and there's some things that come across my desk that seem fairly insignificant. I'm like, it's not such a big deal, but I don't have that personal experience of getting burned by one of those and not realizing that the fine print really means a lot. So.
It does.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that too.
Yeah, and there's a lot more, but that's definitely one of them.
So if you could go back, Aaron, you go back to day one, you're starting off Lush Lawn. What advice would you give yourself?
I mean, this is probably very arrogant. I would tell myself to do things the same. So
okay,
I know it's arrogant. I know it's not cool. I would go back to myself, do things the same, and that's what I would do. Yeah.
For lessons learned, the success you've had, the kind of all.
Yeah, I mean, I made mistakes too. There's no doubt, but that's part of the process too. Yeah. So I know it's not cool to say that, but I'm saying it. Yeah. So yeah.
Hey, own it, man. I like it.
Yeah.
Good. So now I just want to talk a little bit about the future. Right, still growing, still trying to do all the great things we're doing, become the best at what we do. What's your vision for the future? Let's start. I guess let's take that back. Let's start for the industry. Where do you see the industry in the next 5 to 10 years? So the lawn care industry for the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think the technology is going to change a lot of things in lawn care. I think we're going to see a lot of that happening. It's not a matter of what happens. I think it's more of a matter of when. There's no doubt that AI and robotics are going to have more and more of an impact on what we're doing. Yeah. But is it going to be over the next 5 to 10 years? Is it going to be over the next 30 to 40 years? I mean, really, what's the timeline on that? I think that's more of what's the question. Yeah. So technology is going to definitely have some impact on what we're doing. I would say that's probably number one is technology. Yeah.
All right. So how about Lush Lawn? Next 5 to 10 years, what can we expect from Lush Lawn and where that's going? Yeah.
So for Lush Lawn, we certainly need to adapt to those technologies. There's a very insightful book written by Andy Grove, and it talks about strategic inflection points. And that's when something happens either within the industry or maybe outside the industry that really changes the industry and changes the way you approach an industry. But I do think some of those technologies are going to do that. Now, what do I see Lush Lawn? So we're launching franchising. 5 to 10 years, we should have 40 or 50 franchises throughout the Midwest. So more locations. We will have a regional presence. So that's going to be big. We're going to have a lot more employees. We probably are going to have 100 to 200 employees. I would say within 5 years. So it's going to be very interesting. I am putting together a 10-year plan. So we'll see how that looks. I've already put together a 5-year plan. But the 10-year plan is going to be interesting. And I would like to share this too. I think this is a very interesting approach to these long-term plans. So Elon Musk, what he does is he takes his 20-year plans and shrinks them down to about 6 months or 3 months. And I think that's incredible. So while I'm saying I'm going to create these long-term plans, I'm going to see what I can do to shrink them as well, which I have not done that yet, but that's something I'd like to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you.
I know this, again, I don't know if this really answers your question.
No, it is.
It's half answer, half tangent. So
sorry.
It's a little bit across the board.
Hey, I personally am getting a lot from it.
Okay.
It's funny you say that. I actually had it as a note to mention because you had mentioned that I think to me personally a couple months ago about musk and shrinking that time frame down. So
I think
glad you touched on that.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's incredible.
That's very cool. All right, well, Aaron, that's pretty much a wrap for today's episode. I just want to thank you for being open. Asked a lot of questions there, and I appreciate you being vulnerable on some of those tougher questions and opening up. I think our audience will really get a lot from that. So I appreciate it.
Okay, well, this is the first one, and I was a little nervous, but we got through it. So I think we have a lot more good episodes to come. They'll be even more insightful, more helpful to our listeners. We intend on having special guests. I plan on sharing future successes and challenges, problems, and mistakes, opportunities, all the above with our audience. And thanks for listening.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to again thank everyone that tuned in. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time with you today, so that was awesome. Had a lot of fun. Learned a little new things. Known you for 13 years and still picked up some new stuff. So appreciate that. Want to remind everyone, if you want to learn a little bit more about Lush Lawn, certainly hit lushlawn.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Really appreciate that. But engage with us. We'll really appreciate it. And until we talk next time, let's make it a great day.